Hello, welcome to the Time Management for the Busy College Student Workshop. This workshop is a part of our HSS Academic Success Workshop series hosted by the HSS Student Success Center. Now, let's go ahead and get started. Everybody wants to say, I want to manage my time better, but what does that actually look like? The goal of our presentation is to give you a better understanding of what time management is and how to implement it more effectively in your lives. For today's presentation, we've broken down the statement into three crucial aspects of time management. Specifically, our goals of the workshop are to increase your understanding of the activities that make up your time, to explore the different ways to make a schedule for yourself, whether that is through a physical planner, phone, or sticky notes. And lastly, to increase awareness about the things that may waste our valuable time and how to manage those things. Overall, we hope this presentation and our entire workshop series will support you in adjusting to college, developing school work-life balance, and promoting your health and wellness. We'll start with the first goal, understanding your time. On our website, along with a link to this time management workshop, there is a link for a PDF of the personal time survey. Be sure to download and print this survey for this activity. On this survey, there are many common uses of time that are listed. We will define each of these as we go through the worksheet. We understand that with the current state of our health and safety, many of these activities may look different or be done virtually. However, we want to make sure that you are still accounting for your time. As we cover each section, be sure to take some time to fill it out. If you need more time, please feel free to pause this video after each section. To start, let's think about the number of hours of sleep each night. Again, these are the number of hours you sleep each night. For example, a student who sleeps 6 hours a night, we are going to multiply this by 7 to get 42 total hours of sleep per week. Next, we have the number of grooming hours per day. This includes your showers, fixing your hair, doing your makeup, shaving, and any type of activity related to your personal grooming. Once you have the number of hours per day, once again, multiply that number by 7. Let's move on to the number of hours for meals or snacks per day, including preparation time. Once you have estimated the number of hours per day, multiply this number by 7. Now, calculate your weekday travel time and your weekend travel time. Please note that you will only be multiplying the weekday travel time by 7. Next, calculate the number of hours per week for regularly scheduled functions such as gatherings, church, restaurant outings, etc. Be sure to include the time that you are engaging in these activities, whether these are in person or virtual. You will not be multiplying this number by 7 as you are indicating the hours per week. Now, calculate the number of hours per day for chores, errands, extra grooming, and once you have the hours per day, multiply this number by 7 to get the total hours per week. We are close to finishing this survey. Next, we need the number of hours of work per week. If these fluctuate, that is okay. Be sure to give the average number. Now that you have accounted for work hours, let's account for the number of hours in class per week. If your classes are asynchronous, be sure to include all the time that you spend per week reviewing material in your portal. Lastly, we need the number of average hours per week for socializing, dates, etc. And again, if these are happening virtually or in a different manner, be sure to account for this time. Once you have calculated all the different areas we discussed, you will be adding the total for each row together and then subtracting this from 168. The reason you are subtracting from 168 is because there are 168 hours in a week. The number that is remaining is the number of total hours per week that you have time to study. As an example, a student has a total of 142 hours accounted for in the week, and they subtract that number from 168. Their total remaining hours for the week to study is 26. If your remaining study hours number is really low, then it is time to look at making some changes to provide you more time to study. If your number is really high, we want to check in to see if you're using that time to study. And as seen in the personal time survey, there are a lot of different ways we use our time, and it's important to use this awareness to understand how to study our time, how to plan our study time. At the bottom of the survey, there's a tool that can help you estimate how much time you should dedicate to studying for each class. If you list out the classes you have, some of them you might categorize into easy classes, difficult classes, or ones with a pretty average workload. Add up the number of units of easy classes, average classes, and difficult classes that you have and multiply them by either 2, 3, or 4. This should give you the amount of hours you should spend studying per week, not per day. I will give you a minute to fill out the survey before moving on, and if you need more time, be sure to pause the video. After calculating, how does this compare to the number of study hours you have? If you need to switch around the proposed amount of hours to fit your study needs, that is always an option. For example, if there's one class that is incredibly easy with a light workload outside of class, maybe you'll actually spend 3 hours studying for that class instead of 6 per week. Then you can devote those other 3 hours to a harder class on your schedule, such as Psychology 101 or Biology 101. Sometimes our time will need more rearranging than just rearranging 3 study hours. At this point, you might have to think about some of the other common uses of your time and determine which activities are negotiable and which activities are non-negotiable. For example, let's say you have a big Psych 101 test coming up and you aren't doing so well in class. Do you take the day off work to study? Do you sleep less to stay up studying? Do you cancel your weekend socializing plans to study? Do you need to ask someone to help you with chores this week to get it done faster? Does self-care get put to the side when it's time to study? Every person has different negotiables based on their priorities and values. For one person, taking off work isn't an option because you need the money to take care of bills. For another person, it isn't a good decision for you to skip church to study longer. And another person, social time or chores are necessities because they have children and families to take care of. It's important to think about what your negotiables are in different circumstances of your life. But remember that if you sacrifice something in your life, such as self-care, socializing, eating, or sleeping, try to rebalance the time you spend in those areas to prevent being overwhelmed or overworked. The next goal is to learn how to manage your time. The systems that you can use to see and plan your time effectively. We'll present 5 different ways to plan and prioritize your time. The first one is creating a semester planner. You can make a semester planner by taking a piece of paper, numbering the paper with weeks 1 through 16 for each week of the semester, and adding dates next to each week header. Within the space for each week, you can list important events per day. This doesn't have to be just school. It can include important life events so that you can see how events in your personal life matches up with the events in your academic life. This helps you see the big picture of what the semester will look like for you. You can see the weeks that will likely be busier or easier. You can also use this info to plan ahead for busier weeks. Example is, you have a Chicano 101 project due on Monday after your birthday weekend. You can plan to work on the project during week 3 or before your birthday weekend on week 4 so that you don't have to dial down your birthday festivities. Another example is on week 6 and 7 are very busy. Can you begin preparing for these things before your family reunion party? Life looks different for many of us every week, and it might not be easy to always dedicate a certain day, time, and number of hours to studying. So, this is a great tool to explore how you can rearrange your studying and personal time. The second method is having a weekly planner. This tool is helpful to envision all of the moving parts of your week at once, especially if you have an ongoing projects or weekly commitments. You can plan with the next few days in mind, and with a spread like this, you can visualize the gaps of free time you have per week. The third method is using a daily planner. These help you add structure to your day. It can be especially helpful in boosting your daily productivity, especially if you have a lot on your to do list. Many daily planners also have enough room to write specific details about each event or tasks if you need the extra space. The fourth method is using a mobile planner. Many smartphones have built in calendars, and it's a great way to see your schedule on the go. You can adjust your view between daily, weekly, and monthly formats, color code your events based on category, sync across devices, easily add approximated travel time based on your location, and set reminders for events coming up. Lastly, you can use priority lists. These can easily be tacked on to whatever other planner systems you have, such as a small section in a physical notebook or a sticky note on your laptop. You can write your to do list and use symbols like asterisks to note the tasks that are the most important in your priority list, and this adds additional organization to your planning system. Ultimately, whatever planning systems you use, the goal is to be in the know and in control of your time. Natalie Oliva, HSS Retention Specialist, said, "You have the final say with how you use your time. Don't let your time use you." So far, we've looked at how you use your time, and we just covered how to organize your time. Now, we'll provide you tips to refine your time management by managing your time wasters. We'll define a time waster as a use of your time that is not goal oriented, intentional, or important. We identified four common things that lead people to waste their idle time, which are commuting, social media, lack of self care, and lack of planning. First, we'll talk about commuting. Our commute time includes transportation, traffic, carpooling, parking, and walking to our destination. Commuting for many of us is a requirement, and that in itself is not a waste of time. But for many of us who commute at least 30 minutes to campus, do you ever wonder what else you can do than sit in traffic for 30 minutes? In that 30 minutes, we can combine driving with another type of common use of time. Over any of these strategies, we would like to emphasize that you engage in safe driving practices. Multitasking is not a good excuse to be distracted on the road. Here are some examples you can safely multitask on the road. Listen to podcasts, videos, or recordings from lecture. An example is if you're taking a language class like Spanish 101, you can create a YouTube playlist from those Learn to Speak Spanish videos to review course material outside of class. Relaxing. You can listen to a guided meditation or calming music to boost your mood. You can eat a snack that is easy to eat, like a small sandwich, trail mix, chocolate, etc. You can call a loved one to catch up, and this restores some of your need to socialize and can boost your mental well being. And lastly, if you'd rather avoid the commute altogether while staying productive, consider staying on campus to wait out rush hour. The next potential time waster is social media. We'd like to be clear, not all social media use is bad or a waste of time. There are many benefits to social media, such as staying updated on the world, connecting with loved ones, etc. The key to better time management with social media is that our use should be intentional and differentiate between what is productive uses of our time versus unproductive uses of our time. like mindlessly scrolling or using social media in ways that stress us out or doesn't fulfill a purpose. If you'd like to be more responsible about your social media use, here are some suggestions. You can set a timer for the amount of time you'll need to scroll through social media or email. Give yourself 10 minutes before you start your work. You can use an in-app features to monitor the time you spend on your phone. Instagram has a timer, and you can also download other apps such as Moment, Forest, and Off Time to time your use. You can purposely designate times in your schedule to take a social media or email checking break. An example is before class starts. Lastly, you can reconfigure the notifications on your phone to alert you less frequently about your social media or email engagement. The next time waster is a lack of self care. When we lack personal and social self care on a regular basis, we can fall victim to unplanned engagements in self care, like falling asleep in class or studying, taking too long catching up with a friend because we can't say no, staying out longer than expected with friends. And to manage our time better, we can plan ahead for the times we expect we need time for self care. We can use strategies such as meal prepping, building gaps into our schedule to prepare for any unexpected uses of our time, and rewarding ourselves with things that make us feel good to prevent the feeling of being burnt out. Specifically for studying, you can try intentionally scheduling breaks with a time and duration during your study sessions. One way of structuring these breaks are through using the Pomodoro technique. Lastly, a lack of planning in general can lead to us wasting our time. Sometimes we end up spending more time than we intended just deciding what to do next. We can limit our indecisiveness and the overwhelm that comes with it by making detailed decisions in advance. Some strategies to do this can include overestimating the amount of time we spend on tasks and building those into our calendar. That way, if we end up not using all of the time allotted, then we won't be stressed out by rushing to the next activity. We can also establish a routine of places to go on and around campus. Specific to studying, you can try assigning all of your activities with a time, place, and duration ahead of time, and separating large objects into smaller, doable tasks that you can work on daily. Thank you for watching this presentation. We hope you learned something new today and are able to apply these strategies to your study plan. Be sure to check out other presentations on learning styles and test-taking strategies. We wish you the best of luck, and we hope you have a great semester.